Welcome to Poland Daily News. I'm Nicholas Richardson. Following Joe Biden's decision to withdraw from the presidential campaign, the harsh criticism of the former President Donald Trump raises questions about the future of the Polish-American alliance, especially if Donald Trump is being criticized by the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk. In the scenario of a Trump win, relations with the Polish government may be strained, to put it mildly, and may even end up weakening the strong security-based relationship. What do international politics look like in the light of the autumn elections overseas? And on which side will the Polish government stand in the Europe-United States relations?
Sondażowa przewaga Donalda Trumpa w wyścigu o fotel prezydenta Stanów Zjednoczonych.
Donald Trump's lead in the polls in the United States presidential race does not sit well with many Polish politicians. Prime Minister Donald Tusk has repeatedly made no secret of his dislike for Donald Trump. So what does the change in the Democratic candidate for the American presidency mean, and what will Poland's international policy look like, given that the Polish-American alliance should be strong regardless of political sympathies?
Polsko-amerykański powinien być silny niezależnie od sympatii politycznych. Dzisiaj sprawdzam.
My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Although Joe Biden himself insisted until the last minute that he would run for president, his withdrawal was pressured by the Democrats themselves.
With dealing with everything we have to do with, if
the incumbent president's support is as weak as his health, even in the states that usually vote for his party.
Raczej pytanie, dlaczego tak późno?
The question is, why so late? So far, all the energy of the Democrats has been focused on Biden. In a moment, it will be Kamala Harris. But we will have certainty only after the Democratic convention in Chicago, announced for the end of August. What was the reaction in Poland? Dear President Joe Biden, you've made many difficult decisions that have made Poland, America and the world safer, and democracy and freedom stronger. I know you were driven by the same motivations when you announced his latest decision, perhaps the most difficult of your life. And how did Donald Tusk answer questions about Donald Trump? Donald Trump's victory will undoubtedly be detrimental to Poland. Given the Prime Minister's clear political sympathies for the Democrats and his open criticism of Donald Trump, the question of the future of Polish-American alliance remains open.
Mamy bardzo prostą sytuację, w której Donald
Tusk and his political camp are betting 100% on a Democratic victory. Any other scenario is bad for them. The Republicans, as we've already discussed in Milwaukee, see Tusk as an extension of Germany. What will Polish politics look like after Trump's victory, especially in the context of the foreign minister's plans to appoint Bogdan Klich, an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, as Poland's ambassador to the United States, despite the president's objections? Jacek Saryusz-Wolski has written that there will be a conflict between Germany and France and the US administration. Unfortunately, the current Polish government will be on the side of Germany. We will be involved in a conflict with Washington alongside Berlin to the detriment of Poland, but that's not the worst-case scenario.
Większym niebezpieczeństwem jest sytuacja, w której
the biggest problem we will have is if the Democratic candidate wins the presidential election in Poland and the Tusk candidate wins. Then we will be in a really unfortunate situation.
Wtedy naprawdę będziemy w trudnej sytuacji.
Because political sympathies and antipathies could take precedence over the interests of Poland. Once again, Edyta Hordynska, TV Republika.
The buffer zone and reduction of the onslaught of illegal migrants on Poland's eastern border, the strengthening of Shield East, or the largest army in years, these are the alleged successes listed in the Civic Coalition's profile. The problem is that the listed issues should rather be attributed to their predecessors, the United Right, for example, in the case of increasing the number of the army. And reducing the onslaught of migrants and the enigmatic Shield East have not been implemented by this government. Everything was illustrated with the photograph of an old Soviet jet.
The Soviet MiG-15, known in Poland as the LIM-2, was the pride of the People's Republic of Poland's aviation under Władysław Gomułka in the People's Republic of Poland, and by 1956 about 500 such aircraft had been built under Soviet license. under the much talked about title, We Ensure the Security of Poland. We have introduced a buffer zone, which within a month resulted in a drop in attempted illegal border crossings by about 65%. We will allocate 10 billion zloty for the Shield East project. The Polish army is the largest in years, with more than 200,000 soldiers. The entry disappeared quickly, but nothing really disappears on the internet, especially since the civic platform boasts in the entry about its unfulfilled or not quite their own achievements. 200,000 soldiers for the Polish army is an achievement of the Law and Justice government. The same is true of the government's much heralded Shield East project, that is, the construction of fortifications on the eastern border, the financing of which Donald Tusk was supposed to have arranged in Brussels. The notorious Shield East that Prime Minister Donald Tusk spoke of was not included in the Defence Action Plan that Ursula von der Leyen presented in recent days. Money for eastern border fortifications Donald Tusk was later to deal directly with Chancellor Olaf Scholz. We know some visualizations, some presentations. We know that there is no money for the programme. We will see what happens next. We certainly can't consider it here a great success because nothing great has happened yet. For what it's worth, as we revealed on our programmes, the government was planning to cut defence spending between 2025 and 2028 by a total of more than 57 billion zloty. Now the Ministry of Defence argues that the cuts will not happen. In fact, we will find out from the budget reports at the end of the fiscal year, because the government will never admit that it has cut something, but the government has a knife at its throat. Of course it will cut them. The Tusk government does not brag about the execution of contracts to supply new equipment to the Polish military from the United States and Korea. When I left the Ministry of Defence, on the desk of my successor, I left a whole set of contracts and executive agreements that had to be signed to increase the number of troops and equip the military with modern weapons. We have US-trained Apache helicopter pilots, of which the Law and Justice government was supposed to buy close to 100, but so far the new government is silent on the matter. We also have Korean K2 tanks, which according to the contract signed by Minister Błaszczak were to be manufactured and maintained in Poznań. The problem is that the executive contract had to be signed by the end of June. Contracts that were initiated under the previous government are currently on hold. There are clearly delays here. The new team is not able to make important decisions that are necessary at the moment. The same is true of the alleged 65% reduction in illegal migration to Poland, thanks to the border buffer zone introduced by the Tusk government. In all elements that are crucial from the point of view of strength and deterrence capabilities, we are sending Russia exactly the opposite signal: chaos, mess, incompetence. Everything indicates that in the Tusk government's defence policy, as in other spheres, the most important thing is the PR effect, because the government talks a lot and does little. Radosław Jankiewicz, TV Republika.
In addition to price increases for electricity, gas and rent for apartments in Poland, there are increases for water. What's worse, the new plans of the Finance Ministry promise further increases that will hit entrepreneurs, among others. Those are in an increasingly difficult situation. Many of them are either going bankrupt or going out of business. Petrol was supposed to be cheaper too. The Law and Justice Party has drafted a bill on the matter, but it is unlikely that the parliamentary majority will take it up.
Gas, rent, electricity. The list of price rises brought on by Donald Tusk's government is getting longer and longer. I got these increases too. I know what to expect. And a lot has increased? Well, yes. 30% when it comes to electricity. It's been cheaper, I can honestly tell you. Prices are very high, and they will be even higher, and wages are not keeping up. Everything is expensive, sir. It's going to get worse. Let's not hope for any improvement with this government of ours. The rising water prices confirm it. They should not be there at all, and yet they are. In Warsaw or Wrocław, 20% more, and yet it should be cheaper and better in every Polish home. But everything is fully supported by our competence and calculations. Poles can see what the calculations and competence of Tusk and his people look like from the bills they receive. This is a family with one child. They used to pay 360 to 380 zloty for electricity, now above 660. Anyone who thought the increases were done was mistaken. From the new year, local fees and taxes will rise as the Ministry of Finance prepares to change the law. The Ministry of Finance is working on a new definition of buildings and structures. The idea is to increase the operating costs of electricity network operators. The operating costs of Poland's largest power grid operators may increase by up to 400 million zloty, which is a really high cost. And what's more, it will all be passed on to consumers, who will have to pay higher energy prices. And let's not forget, that the situation is already bad. All because of the European ETS2 tax, which will increase household energy costs by up to several thousand zloty a year.
Naciąga się w ogóle kółeczko.
It goes in a circle. Something, most likely fuel, goes up, and then everything else goes up.
No i później wszystko musi iść do góry.
But fuel should be cheaper too. Only credible people can put forward such concrete conclusions. Credibility in the Prime Minister on the same level as calculation and competence. The Prime Minister is not responsible for fuel prices. This is also a lie, as Law and Justice members of Parliament proved today. They took out the Prime Minister and drafted a bill. Thanks to the introduction of this law, the price of petrol would fall by about 90 groszy. It would be lower by about 1 zloty. It is a matter of lowering the tax on fuel to 8%, reducing the excise duty, and abolishing the retail sales tax. If Speaker Szymon Hołownia does not freeze the new legislation, drafted by Law and Justice, there is a chance that it could be cheaper from August 1st. But this is unlikely to happen. Let's wait. Fuel is always more expensive during the holiday season, every year. And why can't it be cheaper? Because it's the holiday season, and that's why companies like Orlen want to make money from it. On one hand, Orlen has to make money, because after the change of authorities in the company, the results are terrible compared to the profits that Orlen made under Obajtek. And please tell me why Orlen needed a profit of 20 billion when you were in charge. This is a listed company. What are you talking about? On the other hand, the false narrative that Orlen's profit comes mainly from retail fuel sales at petrol stations. A barrel of oil is getting cheaper and cheaper on the world markets. We have more and more expensive fuel. We have no published reports. And in fact, we will soon find out that in reality, Orlen earned much, much less, while questions will be raised as to where this money went. You have been attacking the United Right government all this time. The price of fuel at the pump causes this profit. So I ask myself, if the price of fuel is even higher now, if the leader for 519 that Tusk promised is not there, why is there not more profit? First of all, it's because you lied. And a lie has no legs. Adrian Borecki, TV Republika.
While restaurants all along the River Seine in Paris are normally buzzing with activity on summer weekends, all were practically deserted on Sunday as police have imposed a security perimeter along the river.
The metal fences were erected on Thursday, July 18th. Anybody living or working inside the perimeter requires a pass with a QR code to get through checkpoints. There is no one, and the worst part is that you have reservations because you have been around for some time already. But people don't know that they need to have a QR code to reach the restaurant or a confirmation from the restaurant, even if the restaurants are aware they've made reservations. We don't have information. The customers don't have information. The Olympic Games start on July 26th. With an opening ceremony that will see thousands of athletes and performers paraded along a 6-kilometer or 4-mile stretch of the river. Organizers promise an unprecedented extravaganza, but it is one fraught with security risks. Though restaurant owners understand the security risks, few had foreseen the effects of the measures on their businesses, as some restaurants have up to 80% less customers with the new measures. I can tell you that when you have 30% less customers and that you don't expect it, it wasn't planned. Everyone thought about the Olympic Games, but no one had planned what is happening now. The restaurant owners I spoke to on the phone are completely shocked. They don't understand what's happening to them, and it affects the luxury hotels as well as the small neighborhood bistros. It's not just about small businesses. Some 45,000 police will be deployed to ensure the ceremony's security, including special intervention forces. Snipers will be deployed on rooftops, an anti-drone system will be in place, and the river will be checked for submerged bombs. Paris authorities have been telling residents for months that they will need a pass. Newly arrived tourists were caught off guard.
I used a QR code. So what happened was I booked a Airbnb that I stay here with, and Airbnb told me that I was in the restricted area, the grey zone I think it's called, and so I needed to use the Paris police website to get a QR code. And so I did this. Well, one thing I think is, because I have it on my phone, right? What happens if my phone has no battery? And I go somewhere and I come back and I have no phone battery, cannot access my apartment, am I stuck out here forever? This is a scary concept, I suppose. But this hasn't happened to me yet, thank goodness.
Departing from the Austerlitz Bridge, the Olympics opening ceremony parade will sail by Notre-Dame de Paris Cathedral and arrive near the Eiffel Tower. Organizers have said there will be music, dance, and performances on every riverbank and bridge.
That's the news. Thank you for watching, and from me, have a good night and a better tomorrow.